Great. Welcome back to the second half of episode one. So, this is, what often happens. We are great on one channel, not great on the other one, and we cannot expect our customers to be patient with us anymore. We have to be omni-channel, not just multi-channel. So, in this session, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think is omni-channel versus just selling through multiple channels. So, quick question. Do you like Taylor Swift? Maybe, maybe not. I'm guessing my audience does not like Taylor Swift. Or do you like Kanye West? Maybe more. Yeah. Well, the thing is that whether you like Kanye West or Taylor Swift could impact actually your credit rating. Because here's the data. Wallet Hub, a personal finance site, found that 88% of respondents with excellent credit scores like Taylor Swift over Kanye West. And I'm sure this is some really complex algorithm, but this is what happens when we go online. Brands can actually learn far more about us than perhaps even we know ourselves. Not many of us actually track our credit scores, but we do know which pop singer we like. And here's what you're telling brands about you and whether they should lend to you. Now, some of this, of course, if you're on the other side as a consumer, it's like, oh no, I don't want to give that data out there. And today you will see a lot of resistance, for example, to sharing Aadhaar data because of the same fear that it could be used for something you didn't intend. But there are ways for brands to use a proxy such as this to actually make the same analysis. So, what is the role of tech in marketing? So, one is that, let's say that someone says, hey, on Facebook that he's talking about his vacation, we can use his data and actually intelligently make an offer to, let's say, increase the credit limit on Jay's credit card. And you can, put this out in SMS. So he said it on Twitter or Facebook, and it comes back to him through a social channel. And that's actually great value for the customer. So the same customer who may have felt, oh my gosh, they know so much about me, now says, wow, they know what I really want. And it's actually a role of tech in marketing and how it's changing, um, where it's, you're looking at an agile view where you can actually change your tech to adapt to what customers want and give it in real time across multiple channels to the customer. And therefore, you're building loyalty as well as value for them. And eventually, and this is early days yet, we still, are a little resistant or don't understand how tech can help us, but um, more and more customers are dependent. And you will see that, for example, if you've been using a GPS to drive from places, now if you were told to find your way home without it, you might struggle. Many people no longer remember phone numbers because they are counting on their laptop or phone to keep that for them. Whereas in the past, you could remember maybe up to 100 numbers just from memory. So as we rely more and more on tech in our personal lives, tech in marketing will get more acceptable and it'll become more ubiquitous to the point where customers expect you to do this for them. Um, Here's an example of what Verizon data, helped a sports team in the US called Phoenix Suns to learn about its fans. Um, they were able to just use mobile data to figure out who came, what kind of people came, what kind of, do they have kids at home, what's their annual income, a lot of stuff, and whether they go to multiple sessions of the same team. So they did the training attendees and they came back. So there is so much data available if you're just able to integrate, let's say, cell phone usage data with your customer data. And that's the other part of marketing, is that omnichannel does not just mean whether you're selling through multiple channels, but whether you are also tracking data from multiple channels and applying it for a customer benefit. Of course, there is a commercial angle because you could also then sell the data in aggregate to marketers and say, this is the kind of audience that comes to my ball game, and this is, they keep coming back, or this is the kind of income or the places they come from. And therefore, there is a lot of rich data available for marketers to use. Um, so how can social data help? So I've just taken the typical four Ps and put in areas where social data can help you to enrich one part of the four Ps. So one is, of course, we can use it to change the product itself based on what customer data we have. We can predict demand because we can see a trend. We can do individual offers in the case of pricing. For example, if I know that so and so drives a certain car or lives in a certain area, then we can use that to actually give them an upscale offer. The place, so where to sell, when to sell, where to advertise, all that is very, very useful if you have, time and place and social data. Positioning again, segmentation, lead features. So your product may have many features, which one would you talk about to a particular segment of the audience can be determined with social data, and of course messaging. So again, we come back to the current, shall we say, controversy over the Kendall Jenner ad and Pepsi's ad, and many people are offended that it actually leverages the Black People's Lives Matter campaign and uses it essentially to sell a soft drink. So again, if you're looking at positioning, then if we had social data, then it would be clear that some of the audience at least would not appreciate that kind of a message, and perhaps this could have been avoided. Um, and then from a customer perspective, we can do predictive service because we know that he's going on holiday. What should we do about it? The customer service level, you can set that based on the person's ability or willingness to pay for that. And then, lifetime value versus the cost of service. So again, we find that some people are very noisy on social media and therefore they tend to get higher service levels. But then again, it should be linked rather to the person's value to the brand rather than just their noise levels, and at some point it might be too expensive to service them than to let them go. And of course we can also use social data for advocacy to get customers to talk more about the value that they find from our brands. So what are the so often we track vanity metrics. So vanity metrics or inner strength. So you have to choose between sentiment and commitment. So sentiment is often what is measured today. So we like to measure likes, but what we actually want is purchase intent. And what we've learned over the last 5, 6 years is that sentiment does not necessarily mean commitment. A lot of people do likes, but there is no purchase intent, there is no desire for referrals. Similarly, we track cost per click, but what is the customer's lifetime value is more important. So he may cost you, let's say, 100 rupees per click, but if every purchase is 1,000 rupees, then it's worth it for you. But on the other hand, if every purchase is only 10 rupees, then obviously there is a problem. We talk about, turnaround time, but we should be looking at the satisfaction levels. Again, we look at views, but it should be the click through rate. What do they actually do after they've seen the views? So often the way you measure your data will also determine the way we structure our actions, and therefore choosing the right metrics is very important to us. And if you're in a position where you decide the metrics, then avoid anything that just makes marketing look good but doesn't result in actual, revenue. So the omni-channel customer, this is a framework which I've created, which is there is digital, there's out of home, there's in home, there's sensory, and there's locational. And then we have a layer of people, process, and tools which, help the customer to access the brand. And then there's a whole back office piece of the customer profiling, the usage data, preference data, the affinity engine, a recommendation engine, and then social platforms or user groups that he's a part of, third party information, for example, cell phone usage, messaging, product customization, pricing, and payment. So there's this huge engine that determines the experience that the customer will have on any particular channel. And there's a whole piece of process readiness, and it's for you to decide which point your organization currently is in, as in, do you have no processes, which is the left side, or do you have seamless and real time flow? So today, most omni-channel efforts, the backend is probably in partial automatic integration or ad hoc automated integration. Very few organizations have reached the point of having a seamless and real-time flow. The exceptions are those which have been created as digital enterprises and are probably moving the other way, that is from digital to offline. They have a seamless and real-time flow, and that is actually the threat for any legacy organization. On the plus side, the legacy organizations have far more data about their customers, which they could put into the engine and use to craft very specific offers back for the customer. For the customer today, expectations have gone up, and really the customer is demanding an omni-channel experience, not a multi-channel experience. So what is omni-channel? So single channel, I just experience a single type of touch point. In multi-channel, I get multiple touch points, but the touch points are independent. They don't talk to each other. In cross-channel, I see multiple touch points, but it's not fully integrated. It's a little bit integrated. So maybe my loyalty card is across all three channels, but it's not entirely seamless. But in omni-channel, it's completely seamless. I start the transaction in one, let's say, showroom, and then I, complete the transaction on the mobile. It is completely seamless. I do not have to actually plug in any data. It's just a frictionless experience for me. And that is, what the National Retail Federation, which is the US body, calls as the nirvana situation. In India, by and large, we are mostly in the reality situation where all channels are active but not fully integrated. So this is a quick, again, overview of the difference between multi-channel and omni-channel. Clearly, the aspiration for most organizations is to move to an omni-channel, and a lot of technology will be required to actually make this seamless for the customer. So again, if you look at social, different tools can be used for different purposes, and one type of content does not work for all. And you might want to use this table as a quick, way to see what channels you can use which. For example, YouTube is great for demos, and it actually could cut down your service cost as well. Whereas Facebook is great for engagement, Twitter is really good for personal engagement or for sharing very relevant content, whereas SlideShare is very good for B2B or for longer format case studies, research, and so on. So similarly, each channel also works for a particular type of product or consumption experience, and it would be useful to map what works for your particular product. The role of content again, so there's a lot of interest in content, but different types of content again work at different points in the customer experience. So again, use this as a checklist to see whether you have, each type of content as a customer moves through the phases of awareness, lead gen, nurture, convert, and engage. I'm not going to read all of these out. There's all common marketing tools, but the goal of each content at each time is different. Also, the format will be different depending on the channel that you're using it for. Of course, no one can produce, the huge quantities of content that is getting pushed out and consumed today. So, how do you extend the half-life? Again, these are just tips and tricks to make your content last longer without going in for fresh content or different perspectives. It just shares the same content but in a different format for multiple channels. So with that, I come to the end of the second half of the first episode, and I would really like to thank you all for staying with me. I know we've had some technical glitches. The decks are available on our micro site, and you can read them there. And I've given my email ID, so if you would like to mail me and ask any questions, that's fine as well. Or if you would like to post your questions on the chat screen, I could reply to them now as well. Also, if you go to our website, you will see that there is a small test which will help you to see whether you've actually understood the content. And this is a certification program, so we're going to have a small checkpoint after every module, and then have a master test at the end, which results in the certificate. Obviously, you do not have to attend each of these webinars. You could skip one or two and come back and take the test, and then you can always mail us if you have any queries on that. I hope it's been useful for you, and I do hope to see you back. Not next Friday because that's Good Friday, it's a holiday, but the following Friday we will resume the session. And thanks to all of you for joining us today, and hope to see you again for the next session.